Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Ben Foggins Media Corner back again with a brand new AK After I Saw review episode for today. This is going to be my review on a film that was released this year for 2022, which this one came out back in April this year in the UK. Well, this came out just the month after that in the US, which was, of course, May of this year. And I really wanted to review this film straight away after I saw the film, but I got held up with a few things that were in my way, which was, of course, work, as well as seeing some new stuff for the time that I've already talked about. Well, there's still a few I have to talk about. But since I'm off work, I feel like I should get this review over and done with. So today's review is going to be my review on the 2022 period drama, and this is the sequel to the first film that was released back in 2019, while also, of course, being based on the beloved television series, and that is, of course, Downton Abbey: A New Era. So this is the sequel to the first film, which is, of course, Downton Abbey, the movie, which, of course, like I said, was released back in 2019, and it's, of course, based off the beloved television series Downton Abbey. And, of course, in this film, reunites the same cast that we all know and love from the show, as well as, of course, from the first film. In which, in this sequel, we see the cast, they travel to the south of France to basically uncover the mystery of the Dowager Countess's newly inherited villa. So that's pretty much the short and simple story, really, that I could say for Downton Abbey: A New Era. Now, for my personal thoughts on the first Downton Abbey movie, I really enjoyed the first movie quite a bit, despite I didn't love it so much like some fans did who are big fans of the show. But I still had a really good time with it, despite I had a few problems with it, though. But for the show itself, I never really watched a single episode of my life, and I never really got into the show myself, even though from what I've heard, it's considered a really popular TV show that's set in the UK, which it's basically, because of course the show itself, it's basically a period drama set in an old century. And the show the show itself, it's mostly kind of aimed towards like seniors, like say your grandparents. Like my grandparents themselves, they do watch the show, and they of course do adore the show. And the show can also appeal to like middle-aged people, like say your parents and all that. Like my mom does watch the show, and she also likes the show too. And so before I saw the first film, I never watched a single episode. Like I said, I just kind of went in. But when I was about to go in watching the first film, I just kind of went in with an open mind straight away, since I knew nothing much about the show. And after walking out of the first film, I definitely had a really good time with it, despite I had a few issues with it, though. And so for when I heard we were getting a sequel to the first film, I was totally surprised. I guess they were going to make it because of how much money the first movie made when it was released back in 2019, because of course the first film itself did do really well at the box office when it was sold out really well all over around the globe, mostly in the UK, since this is of course a UK, since the show itself is in the UK, is set in the UK as well as the first movie. And I did see it on opening day in April of this year, and my screening wasn't really that packed. There wasn't that much people who were sitting on my screening that I was at. But after walking out of the sequel, I definitely had a good time with the sequel. And I'd say I like the sequel just as much like I did with the first one here. For the actors themselves, who of course were in the show as well as in the last film, they're totally invisible here in this film. And for them portraying their characters once again from the show as well as in the last film, they're once again terrific in this film. And I could definitely say is what this film is mainly going for here. Because this film focuses a whole lot on these cast of characters. And this film has a humongous cast of characters here, in which, like in the opening credits, like there's 30 different people, like the names, any actor's name that appear on the screen. And for seeing that on the big screen, the way I can definitely describe it is that it's so big. And I can definitely say the actors from the show, they definitely put a lot of love into these characters, which I can definitely say will satisfy the fans of the show. But when it comes to the story for these kind of films, this film does have a few plot points in the film, which some of them were kind of difficult for me to understand really what was going on. But there was one aspect of the film that I thought was really interesting, is where there's this film crew in Downton Abbey who are trying to make a silent film, and the production isn't going that well. And they feel like the film isn't going to do that well at the box office. They feel it's going to be a flop until they basically decide to basically change the film from being silent to being very more talkative. Since nowadays films are very talkative, which for that aspect I thought was really interesting. And the pacing in the film, it's kind of the exact same issue I did have with the first film, because the pacing for the first film was a bit slow, and it's kind of the exact same thing here with this one, since it's kind of a long film. But for the people who are behind this film, I can definitely say they did a respectful job to basically try and be what the show is like, to basically satisfy those who are big fans of the show, to keep them very happy. And the direction in this film by Simon Curtis, it's a beautiful looking film, and I could definitely say he's definitely put a lot of love and effort to this film that that I can definitely say he will definitely make the people who are big fans of the show very happy with. And there's one aspect, and there's one moment in the film that is pretty emotional that will definitely satisfy the fans of the show. And for seeing that on the big screen, it did hit me. It did really hit me here in this film. It did have a tear coming to my eyeballs, but the floodgates didn't open for me. But for seeing that, it did really hit me. And another issue I did have with this film is that the editing of this film is kind of quick, really, in this film, which that was another issue I had, along with some plot points that were kind of difficult for me, and as well as its pacing. But still, in the end, guys, Downton Abbey: A New Era, I had a really good time with this one. And like I said, I enjoyed this one just as much like I did with the first one. There's a few things to enjoy out of, well, there's a few problems I did have with this one. But for those who are big fans of the show, I can definitely say they'll have a satisfying time with this one, and I can definitely see they'll have a really good time with this one. After I saw this one, and when I went back to work, I had a lot of seniors who were seeing this film, and they were having a really delightful time with this one, just sitting down, relaxing, having a good time while drinking their cup of tea. And if you miss a chance to see this in the cinemas, it will be available to stream on any app of your choice. But if you don't want to watch it, if you don't want to wait for that, you can just definitely wait to basically pick up the film in any physical media of your choice. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Downton Abbey: A New Era, other than this was definitely a really good time here. I'm going to give Downton Abbey: A New Era 3.5 out of 5. Good score for yet another good movie for 2022. But I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite films of this year. But I still had a good time with this one, despite I had a few nitpicks that did kind of bother me with this one. And like I said, I like this one just as much like I did with the first one. And for those who are big fans of the show, I could definitely say this will definitely be a good cup of tea. So yeah, thank you so much for watching for my AK After I Saw review on Downton Abbey: A New Era. Let me know what you think of the sequel, if you've just recently seen the sequel, or if you've already seen the sequel. Did you have a really good time with this one, or was this not really a cup of tea here? So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more reviews. And as always, this has been Foggins Media Corner signing off.